Welcome to City Conversations. Today with me we have Lee Jernigan, who is our city traffic engineer responsible for much of the roadways across the city. In fact, 234 lights across our city in addition to all the roads, and Lee's got quite a responsibility to keep that all in check, and a bunch of folks under him that help maintain the safety and security of our city from a streets and roadway perspective. Lee, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Kevin.
And tell me a little bit about what your folks do across the city.
Well, our traffic services division is comprised of 17 employees. We cover signs, markings, downtown parking, street lights. We cover commercial development reviews. But the thing we're focused on today is our traffic signal maintenance and traffic signal timing groups. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay. And so as we stand here in a street corner in downtown Fayetteville, I know one of the things we had chatted with beforehand was talking a little bit about what's going on in the looping sections here. So when you pull up to a light, how exactly that works to keep us safe as we're going through an intersection.
Good question, Kevin. That's a question we get a lot from our citizens. How do the lights work? How do the lights know we're there? Well, we've progressed dramatically over the years in technology. And so basically what the light does is detect your vehicle using basically a magnet to detect the metal in your vehicle and place a call to our computer, which operates the light, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. So if you'll look over here, you'll see every intersection that has a traffic signal has one of these white stop lines. And so that denotes where a vehicle should be sitting when the light is red. Basically within the center of that lane is a wire that's cut within the pavement that functions, like I say, as a magnet and detects that vehicle and places a call. So as just a point to motorists, if they'll sit in the center of a lane at that white stop line, they will be detected. If you sit above it or beyond it, there's a chance that you may not be detected as a vehicle and you may not get a green light.
Right, so that's what causes those lights to change.
That's correct.
Now, those loops aren't at every intersection we come to. They're just at select intersections, right?
There'll be loops at every approach or every intersection. There's a traffic signal.
Okay, and so you can tell, though, visually, we've got one in the road here that you can actually see the remnants of.
That's correct. You can tell by this intersection that this loop has been repaired or recut on multiple occasions, so you can actually see where those wires are located in the pavement. Now, if it's been recently resurfaced with asphalt, those loops are under that asphalt and you won't actually see it like we do here today.
Right. And so again, the key is pull all the way up to the stop bar, which is behind us here. That's what's going to activate this thing to make sure people get through an intersection safely.
That's correct. Once you do that, equipment will detect you and place a call to our controller, which again we'll talk a little more in detail about in a minute, and that controller will know that vehicle is sitting there and will serve that vehicle with a green light as it comes up with the phases of the traffic signal.
And this works for motorcycles as well as cars?
It does. Again, there's more emphasis for a motorcycle because obviously they're smaller, less metal. Make sure you're sitting at that white stop line and make sure you're sitting in the middle of a lane.
So that's really the key to the secret key there is pull up to the stop bar, make sure you're sitting there because that's what recognizes somebody there and helps those lights turn.
That's correct.
And so another thing that helps lights turn as well is back behind us here, these push buttons to go into a crosswalk. So tell me a little bit about how that works, and then let's walk over and we'll actually push it and cross the street.
Okay, great. Well, at a high level, Kevin, it functions the same way as these loops in the pavement. It's just a little different mechanism. So in order to serve our other users at the intersection, not only vehicles, but we also have to serve pedestrians,
Sure.
in some cases bicycles and other modes of transportation. So basically that button functions as this loop that's over here. So once we push that button, as we'll do here in just a second, it will also place that call back to that same controller.
Okay.
And it'll let that controller know that there's a pedestrian here that needs to cross the street.
Okay.
And whenever that phase is assigned within the traffic signal phasing, it will serve it and we'll get the little white man that'll tell us it's time for us to cross the street safely.
Okay. All right. Look at that. That
Look,
happened
there.
very quickly. So we've already got the crosswalk signal going.
And
10 seconds to cross over.
Our pedestrian traffic signal heads today have a countdown, what we call a countdown head, and it gives you the amount of time you need to cross the intersection.
And so back over to the box that we're getting ready to walk over and see. So let's head across the street then and take a look at this signal control cabinet that controls this intersection and the intersections across the city and how that actually works to keep us safe.
All right, sounds great.
So these boxes, I understand, are actually at every single intersection across the city.
That's correct. So the number, there's 234 intersections that we are responsible for maintaining around the city, and at every single one of them, you'll have one of these controller cabinets.
Okay.
So Kevin, we have Mr. Bob Gardner.
Bob,
he
how are
is
you?
on.
Good, Kevin.
He is on my staff, and he is our traffic signal maintenance supervisor.
Okay.
And I would like for Bob to just run through some of the components that are in our cabinet and explain how what we've already told the audience works once it gets back to this point.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the controller. This is the brains of the signal. It tells the lights to change the cycle, the sequence. You can put the coordination in here. Everything from the field comes into the back of the cabinet, comes into the controller, and then once it comes here, it is monitored by the conflict monitor. The conflict monitor, it will not allow it to go into flash. It will not allow two simultaneous cycles, two greens. If that never happens, within a millisecond, this thing will catch it and put it into flash.
Okay. So you're talking about if the power goes out or something surges or does something.
Yes, sir.
It's got that
This
capability. to go,
catches it.
One side's going through yellow, the other side's going through flashing red.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. These are the load switches which drive the AC, which drive the DC voltage, turns it into AC, and puts the outputs out in the field.
And how many years have you been doing this, Bob?
Been doing it 12 years, sir.
And so this has, I'm sure, advanced quite a bit since when you started till now.
Yes, sir. Everything now is fiber optics. It's all IP addressed. We can control everything from a central location. Used to, a technician would have to come out here and troubleshoot and try to find the problem, but now he can just log into the computer and it'll tell him, you know, where the problem's at. It makes it a lot easier on the technicians to do this, Kevin.
Right, and we're going to go back and actually look at that back in your control room later on this morning.
Yes, sir.
To see exactly how that's controlled. And I think too, so if something goes out here, how do you get alerted there's a problem?
We will get an alert, a text message from the central system, or 911 will call. But normally we get a text message within 30 seconds of a signal going into flash.
Okay. And so it's literally instantaneous.
Yes, sir,
and
instantaneous.
So speaking of 911, so if I come upon an intersection, I'm downtown in the city, and I see lights out, or actually not flashing, because that's already into the mode it needs to be, but if the lights are completely out, is it still helpful for me to call 911 and let them know that?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, definitely call. These are very, everything in here is electronics. It's all 120 volts. You have to be really careful messing around in one of these. You have to work on them live. You can't troubleshoot a signal with the power off. Yeah, so you have to work on live electricity, which we use voltmeters and you know, things like that to control everything. Yeah, this is the brains. This is the brains of the whole operation.
And so the brains and the advancement, yet I still see a little book in here, and you guys got to come check these things out. So this is really your preventive maintenance.
Yes, sir. This is our
checks
preventive maintenance
system.
log. We visit every signal in the city that we maintain. We visit them at least twice a year.
Okay.
To do PMCSs on them. The guys come out and they'll go through everything. They'll clean them. They will make sure the coordination and the timing is correct in the controllers.
Okay.
They will put them in flash to make sure they're flashing correctly. There's a sequence where they have to flash correctly. They'll clean the cabinets. They'll walk the intersections. They'll measure the height of the heads. They'll check. You know, they'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything's working properly. That way, there's no accidents.
Sure.
And, you know, and like I said, the conflict monitor it maintains all that. It stops any kind of conflict. If anyone ever says, "Well, I had a green and I had a green," no, that would never happen. That would never. These will not allow that.
Well, it's pretty incredible to see how this works, and I'm looking forward to going back into your control center and seeing how that works.
Oh yes, it's very advanced. We've come a long way since when I started on these things. So,
well, good. Well, it's nice to see that this thing is out here helping keep us safe, and especially with that conflict resolution thing. I didn't know that's how that worked.
Yes, sir.
To know that you can never come to an intersection and have conflicting instructions given to you from a light. So, well, let's go back and check out the other end of things here with Alexander Street and see how this works from inside and where your folks are actually monitoring this to see how that works there.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So what we'll have, Kevin, is as we showed the detection comes to here, this goes to our traffic management center, and we can monitor every one of these lights throughout the city from there.
Okay, let's go check it out.
All right, sounds good. All right, so Kevin, we've We're pulling up to our facility on Alexander Street where our traffic management center is located, so we'll go inside and take a look.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, Kevin, welcome. This is our Traffic Transportation Management Center that we spoke about in the field a few minutes ago. So here's where all of our information that we saw from our traffic signal cabinet, all that information for all those 234 signals around the city comes back to this location. So we're able to do a lot of things here. And with that, I'd like to introduce a couple of my staff members. Mr. Carl McCartney is our traffic signal maintenance traffic signal management engineer, and Mr. Fred Thompson is our traffic signal analyst. So Carl, if you would, give Kevin some information on what all we have going on here in our TMC.
All right, Kevin, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of the system. Feel free to ask any questions, interrupt me as needed. Lee's already told you essentially what the signal system is. It's comprised of about 300 signals. The furthest one north is all the way north of Spring Lake at Bragg and Manchester, and it goes all the way down to Maine at Parkton Road in Hope Mills. Now, we only have jurisdiction over about 230 of the signals. The city owns 30, and DOT contracts to us to take care of 200 more of their signals. The remaining 70, the ones in Hope Mills and Spring Lake, those are 100% taken care of by NCDOT. They just happen to be accessible by this system. Okay, what you're looking at here is just a broad overview of the whole system. The different little colors on there tell us what the status of the signals are, so we can see if signals have lost communication, if they're running a coordination plan, if they're running free. They'll change colors if they're in preempt because a train is coming through. So that's just kind of a broad overview that we can see just in a brief snapshot of exactly what's happening.
And Bob mentioned before that he actually gets alerts on his phone, a text alert when something goes bad. And I think we saw a pop-up window coming up here just as we were walking in. That's similar to that, so you're getting that alert here as well.
Right. And they're actually different degrees of alerts. What Bob's talking about, the technicians getting the text, they'll get those after hours. There's only when someone here maybe from 6 in the morning till 5 at night.
Okay.
So if you actually have something that's serious enough that warrants immediate attention, the traffic technician who's on call, he'll get a text on his telephone saying, for instance, person in Bow is in flash.
Sure.
You know, he's not going to get a text because there's a bad detector or something like that he can fix the next day.
Gotcha.
But it's something that has to be taken care of right then. He'll get one.
And so there's essentially 24-hour coverage on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Another neat thing you're looking at here, some of these different colors on the arterials, that's actually telling us how much traffic is driving down that road at that given point. The darker the color, the more traffic that is.
Okay.
That just kind of lets us see if things are working normally or not. For instance, you know, if we had a real high traffic volume at 10 in the morning somewhere that was uncommon, that tells us there's probably a detour going on somewhere. Maybe there's an accident or something unusual.
And can you see Skybo Road, for instance? Does it show that in a colored mode?
Yeah, like for instance on a Saturday afternoon, it would be about as dark as it could get. It would be black. Like I said, other than the volume levels, we can actually see the live signal status. Like for instance, you guys were just out at, I believe you guys were out at Person and Bow.
Correct, we were, yep.
Well, so we can actually pull that up and see that's what's happening at Person and Bow right now.
As we speak, and that's what we're looking at the board, which we're going to go to in just a minute.
Right, it's the exact same thing.
Okay.
Now, obviously, the background picture is just a picture. You know, it's not a satellite view of the intersection, but it's the status of the intersection pasted over that, but that's live. That means the main street just turned yellow.
Okay.
It shows you whether there are vehicles waiting or not based on the call. Here, this little indicator just lit up. That means somebody's hit the pedestrian button and they're waiting to cross.
Okay.
And so that helps if someone's calling and saying, hey, this signal's never turning green.
Sure.
Well, first thing we can do is go look and see, is it turning green?
Right.
Well, we've even had calls where they're at the intersection at the time, and then we can, you know, coordinate with whoever's talking to us and, you know, sort of like we're there. So
let's walk up and take a look on the big screen because it's a little more viewable for our listeners right now, our viewers.
And Kevin, while we're walking up there, as Carl mentioned, historically we would, if we were to receive those calls of trouble or somebody saying the signal's not operating properly, we would have to actually go to that intersection and see it for ourselves and troubleshoot it independently without having all the information. This allows us to address those issues almost instantly.
Right, so it's a remote feature that you're just doing from here. That's awesome.
But essentially what you're looking at here, these indicators, the arrows, the little pedestrian hands, they're telling you what's actually happening at the intersection right now. So that means the Bow Street just turned yellow.
All's red right now, so
yep.
everything's red.
Now the other side, Otis Jones, turned green.
Okay.
These little indicators here are telling you whether there's traffic demand on that side. So right now there's nobody here, so Person Street's turned green. Theoretically, it would stay green in Person Street forever until someone comes up here. So now there is someone here, so see, it's going to go over to Person.
And you mentioned Person Street staying green forever, literally, if nobody came from the other direction. That's because that's designated as the primary road.
Right. Every intersection has a rest condition. So if you went out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, most likely you could, if everything's functioning properly, it might stay green on Person Street for an hour because there's no reason for it to change.
Okay.
So when we were out earlier at this intersection, Kevin, and we pressed our crosswalk button and crossed the street this way, that little circle illuminated to let the system know that we had placed a call at that location.
And by that same token, that square box up there, that's that loop that we were talking about, which activates because that car pulled up to the stop bar.
That's correct. It's all the detection that's on that side.
Right. Now, we mentioned earlier, too, when we were talking with Bob, Carl, about who to call, what to call if you see a problem. Let's talk a little bit about that. So if you see an issue related to the traffic light, what's really the best thing to do?
Okay, well, it probably depends on the degree of the issue. I mean, you can any problem you can call 911 and it will get to us, but you can use the Fix-It app to report something that's not an immediate threat to anyone. But if you were to see something like a signal head turned the wrong way, or possibly signal heads hanging too low that look like they could hit vehicles, your way to go there is 911.
Okay.
They'll turn around immediately and call us.
But on the other hand, if a resident sees something that looks like an inordinately long wait for the green to change or something potentially there, again, not a safety issue, that's back to the Fix-It app.
Yeah, I'd go with the Fix-It app.
Or 433-1329, 4331-FAY.
Right.
Well, it's amazing to see the level of technology, and as Bob talked about earlier today, how much that's changed just in the 12 years he's been here. Because this really has gotten to the point where, as Lee said, you can do a lot of what you need to do from right here in this control room, or if you have to, get out to that control box. Right. But really to make sure that the lights are all turning and changing the way they need to.
That's correct. And like we're showing here, this is the intersection we were at earlier, but we can get this same level of detail from every one of the signals that are within this system. And they're all connected with fiber optic communications throughout the city.
All right. Well, what else is there that we might want to share with our viewers today to talk a little bit about traffic signals? Anything else that you'd like to share with them today, Lee or Carl?
Yeah, I mean, we can go a little more into the camera system here. We've got, we're a little bit under construction right now, but as you can see up here, we have live images. We have cameras up there. There are going to be 50 of them when it's all said and done, and it's very easily expandable. This wall is actually capable of showing 250 separate images. And the cameras are all pan, tilt, and zoom. For instance, up here on the large display, that's Grove and Ramsey Street. Just to give you an idea, each camera can see more than one intersection. You don't have to go out and buy 230 cameras, because the camera can pan and zoom. But just to give you just an idea, so that's the Market House clock. That's about 1/3 of a mile away from that camera.
Wow.
So you can see as we pull back exactly how far away we are.
And Kevin, we could see the intersection we were at earlier had it not be for the trees and buildings that were in the way, but the camera's capable of going that far.
Oh yeah, that's a great level of fidelity, so you can really see clearly up and down that road.
Right, and and none of this is for law enforcement. This is for us to monitor traffic, to see. We can do manual traffic counts through this. We can see if there are cases. For instance, if these fellows had 2 lanes blocked and they were causing a traffic problem at this signal, we could manually control this signal from here.
Right.
You know, just like a police officer standing at a signal cabinet, we can do the exact same thing from right here.
So that speaks to, as we said before, using the Fay Fix-It app. If we were to get a Fay Fix-It complaint today at this intersection, which being Grove and Ramsey, that traffic was backing up, we have the ability to look at it on camera and say, oh, well, there's a work zone there that we weren't aware about.
Sure.
And Carl has the ability to make changes during that time to help the signal progress as well as possible.
Right.
Right. And then none of these cameras record. You know, that's not what they're for. But the system actually does record events. So if someone were to call and say, hey, on Sunday afternoons, my light's only staying green 7 seconds. Well, maybe I can't get out there that Sunday afternoon, but I can tell the system, hey, Sunday afternoon, record this signal. And then I can pull up the data, and it'll show me every single cycle how long that signal stayed green. And if you go, oh, holy crap, they're right, it did only stay green 7 a few times. Maybe there's a detector problem or something like that. Also, I mean, the place these colors are coming from that tell you how much traffic there is, all that volume is recorded too, and that's archived forever. So we can actually compare the traffic on Grove Street in non-school hours to Grove Street during the summer when there's not school to see if there's a big difference. We, you know, as time goes on, we can compare Friday afternoon this year to the exact same day last year. So is traffic going up on Grove Street? Is it going down on Grove Street? Which of our arterials are growing? Where's our growth at? You know, which ones do we need to pay more attention to? One of the alerts you can even set, you can say, hey, if traffic ever gets bigger than this number on Grove Street, send us an alert, because that's not supposed to happen.
That's what we keep hearing in the background here. Those are alerts you have going off.
Those could be detectors. There are fellows out there working on the fiber optic cable. So actually, when you guys were at the signal, Bob hit manual override on it. That immediately came up. That's how we knew you guys were out there.
And like Carl mentioned, Kevin, if we do have to make an old-time manual traffic count, the atmosphere is a lot better sitting in here watching it on the camera and counting that traffic as opposed to as it used to have to be done a long time ago, sitting out in the field and counting it by hand.
Well, and I think the neat thing too, as you said, you've got how many, 16, 17 folks?
Total in traffic service. In our traffic signal side, we have 4 technicians and Bob, the supervisor, and we have our 2 timing staff here, so a total of 7.
So when you look at that and put those numbers together and think that they control the intersections for 234 lights, it's a pretty amazing feat.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that's really a great thing that you've showed us today, and really appreciate what you guys do to keep us safe out there. It's a lot of technology that goes into keeping this running and smoothly operating, and certainly appreciate what you guys do, Carl and Lee. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. We appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do.
Yeah.
It was good meeting you. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again for joining us today on City Conversations. We hope you enjoyed our show.